So today we have EBAN Winter University and Zagreb Connect again. Two conferences in one. 2 for 1. Should you announce the first speaker?
Yes, I will.
Yeah, you know him personally.
Actually, yeah, Michael Anderson has been living in Zagreb for the last couple of months, 5 months altogether. He's going to be here. He's a digital nomad. You all know what that is. So a couple of years ago, he actually sold everything what he owned, and now he has his whole life in a couple of bags and just travels around. Right now, he lives here in Zagreb, works in Hub 385, and he's a published author and a keynote speaker.
And we're gonna
No,
play
come on. He has a long list of leadership credentials. He has founded 3 international software companies. His book is a bestseller in the business leadership category, and he writes for entrepreneur.com. His new book is going to come out worldwide soon, to be more exact, in January, so make sure you get your own copy. He binge watches a couple of series. You can imagine which ones.
You know too much about our Michael Anderson.
Well, he's a tall guy, and he's a keynote speaker. So if you ask him questions, he's more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, so give it up for our Michael Anderson!
Woohoo!
Thank you.
2 tall guys on the stage. Just one now.
I have a message for you. Don't become an entrepreneur. Forget about all the stuff you heard about, forget about all the stuff you read. It's absolutely not worth it. Because when people come to me and they say they want to start their own business, I ask them why. And the number one answer is because they want to make a lot of money. Well, I'll tell you what, in the United States, only 6% of any business that's started gets over $1 million of revenue. And you might say, hey, $1 million sounds like a lot. But if you take the normal profit rate of 10%, that's $100,000 a year, and minus taxes, minus paying all your debt, that's about an average US salary. So if you start a business in the US at least, you only have a 6% chance of even making an average salary. Other people, when they come to me, I say, when do you want to start, why do you want to start a business? They say, hey, I have a great idea for business. I say, well then become an engineer or an inventor. Some say they're competitive. I say, well, be a salesperson. Others say they're a leader. Well, join a management training program. But don't become an entrepreneur because it's the hardest thing you're ever going to do in your life. Now, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, screw you, I'm going to do it anyway, then you just might have what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Because I'll tell you what, it's going to be the hardest thing you ever do in your life, absolutely, but it's by far going to be the most fulfilling. And if some tall, skinny guy can stand on stage and talk you out of it in 2 minutes, then you don't have what it takes. Become an employee. And it's okay to become an employee because me and the other entrepreneurs out there, we need employees, so you can come work for us. And we'll have a lot of fun. You can help me grow my business. But I'll tell you what, being an entrepreneur is awesome, and being an entrepreneur is very noble, but being an entrepreneur is massively, massively hard. And it all starts with one thing. And it doesn't matter, how good your product is, it doesn't matter the people you have around us, it doesn't matter how much money you make. It starts with the proper mindset. It starts with what I call the entrepreneurial mindset. And that's what I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you a little bit about that today. Because I have a very interesting background. I founded 3 international software companies. I found myself very successful. So I had success in business. I played semi-pro basketball. I used to party at the Playboy Mansion. But all that external success didn't equal internal success. So I didn't have any joy and fulfillment. So even though I had success out there, I didn't have it in here. So I said, you know what? I'm a good achiever, so I want to find how to get the success. So I found what I believe is the best place to do that. And I ended up earning a very unique master's degree in spiritual psychology at the University of Santa Monica. And it transformed me as a person as well as a business leader. And I wanted to give everybody here a taste of what spiritual psychology is. So we're going to spend the next 18 minutes, I think that's what we have left, meditating and hugging. No, I'm just joking. It's funny because you can always see who the Germans in the audience are. They're like, hugging, 9 hugging, 9 hugging. But then the Italians are like, I'm in, let's go, let's do some of this stuff. No, what psychology is, we learn psychology from the same place. We learn the same psychoanalysis techniques you learn from any other psychology degree. We just learn it from a very loving, compassionate point of view. Because as business people, as these driven people, as these leaders out there in the world, oftentimes we're so hard on ourselves, aren't we? We just beat ourselves up. We're our own worst critic. And no matter how much great things we do, we have that little voice in the back of our head that's always telling us all the things we didn't do perfectly. And so what I teach is I teach psychological tools about how to just come into more compassion with yourself, because we need that compassion, because the things that we have to deal with as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as business leaders are so tough. Nobody else in the world can understand it. Nobody else in the world can understand it. Because I'll tell you two things that business people come to me, the really successful business people, two things. Everybody goes through these two things. One is we have so much pressure on ourselves that we go into depression and we shut everything off from the world. Because if you think you're under pressure now, wait till you have a payroll every month of $100,000, $500,000, $1 million. And every business owner who's ever been honest with me says they've woken up that one day and had so much pressure on them that they text their assistant, say they're sick, and they pull their covers back over their head, and they go to sleep, and they just stay in bed the rest of the day. Because it just comes at us from all places sometimes. And the second thing is, because leadership is difficult, sometimes we think we're a fraud. Because the funny thing about leadership is, we have this amount of responsibilities and we're doing these tasks. And then when we get promoted, we start our own business, we get that money, that seed round, all of a sudden we have this much responsibility and we're doing new tasks. And they're probably stuff we've never done before. And we probably didn't get any training or support in these. And then all of a sudden everybody's looking at us, hey, I just gave this person money. What's he going to do? How's he going to manage his team? What kind of success is he having? And so all of a sudden, the insecurity sets in, and then all this fear comes in, and then we start to feel like this fraud. I met guys. I do some work for what's called YPO, Young Presidents Organization, and I did a work with a group. I did a retreat with one of their forums. 2 guys were running businesses, were over $2 billion a year, and they went through these exact same things. And so what I'm here to do, I told you, my life went through transformations. And what I do is I sold my software companies because I believe so much that business people bring so much to this world that I sold my software companies, and I'm a speaker, an author, and a leadership educator. And my job is to bring more self-compassion and self-love into leaders' lives. And that's why I wrote the new book, Soul Centered Leadership, which they mentioned, that comes out in January, because I believe we go through so much pressure and nobody gets it. And I'm going to give you a couple of stories about myself. So I actually have a good background with Croatia. So I'm about 60% Croatian. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is like a Croatian stronghold. And I think Maro was here he's from Pittsburgh as well. He facilitated one of the panels yesterday. And I was about 23 years old. I was halfway through my MBA, my Master of Business, and my Uncle Ron calls me up. And it's just before the summer, so I had the summer off. He said, hey, Michael, what are you doing? I said, oh, nothing, Uncle Ron. He said, well, I need you for this summer, possibly. What happened is I started a business in Croatia. See, my Uncle Ron, he was a chiropractor, so he was like a back doctor. He helped people's back. And he got injured, so he got this insurance payment. He had a lot of time and money on his hands, so he actually went back to the homeland, to Croatia, and he started the first 2 chiropractic clinics in Rijeka and Zagreb. And Rijeka is a medium-sized town to the west of Zagreb. And so he started this company 22 years ago, and he put a couple Croatians in charge. And I know this may sound hard to believe if you're Croatian, but he thought maybe they were stealing a little bit of money off of it. I know it sounds a little crazy 25 years ago that would actually happen. So he said, hey, Mike, I want you to go over to Croatia for the summer and audit the company. So what auditing means is you look at all the accounting books to see if people are taking money out of it. And I'm like, well, cool, Uncle Ron, I don't really know what auditing is, but I'll do it anyway because I want to go to Croatia for the summer. But I figure I'll figure it out on the plane. So I get over to Croatia, and I figure I can add up some numbers. We'll figure it out. I get to the clinic that was actually based in Rijeka, and there was a big problem. What do you think the problem was from this guy from Pittsburgh trying to audit the books in Croatian? Everything was in Croatian. Yes, there was a little bit of a disconnect there. So it's okay. I hired a bookkeeper. They came in and they audited the book. So they found out where people were taking some money out of the company. And so I called my Uncle Ron. I said, hey, Uncle Ron, this is what they're doing. This is how they're taking money out. He goes, all right, Michael, I want you to fire him. I'm like, okay, but who's going to run the company? He's like, you are, Michael. I said, well, I'm a 23-year-old kid from Pittsburgh. What do I know about running a 2-location medical corporation in Croatia? He's like, I don't care. I want them out now. Okay, Uncle Ron, I got it. And so there was a lady in charge and sort of a right-hand person in charge. And so I told the one lady, the boss lady, hey, you're fired. She's like, fine, I'll leave. And I go to the other lady and I said, hey, you're fired, you gotta leave. And she goes, F you, I'm not leaving. I'm like, you don't understand, you're fired. She goes, yeah, tough, I'm not leaving. So my first executive action, my first leadership action was to physically pick this lady up, put her out the door, and fire her. And it's funny because my Croatian friends say, you know, Mike, every so often that is how we have to fire people here in Croatia. And I tried that in the US, and I had some very interesting talks with human resources after trying that in the US. Don't try that in the United States. It doesn't go down really good. But that's an absolutely true story, and that was my first taste of real leadership, and it actually gave me a real love for Croatia. But can you imagine, when I think back as a 23-year-old from a foreign country, from Pittsburgh, never really had leadership, never had business experience, and all of a sudden I'm in charge of a 2-location medical corporation in Croatia, in this foreign country. And I had doctors. I had 3 doctors. They were in their 40s and their 50s reporting to me. I had a staff of 14 people, half of who didn't even speak English. What do you think the state of mind was in? What do you think the state of mind I was in? I was scared. I was scared out of my wits. I was scared. What are these people going to think of me? What if I do something wrong? What if the whole company goes down because of me, because of something I did and I didn't do? And I'll tell you what, leadership is scary. If you're in a leadership position and you're new in a leadership position and you are not feeling scared, you're either lying, you're stupid, or you're a psychopath. And so what I want to do, the first thing I want to tell you is it's normal to have fear when you're in a leadership position, especially a new leadership position. And I'll tell you what, I'm so impressed by the leaders I meet here in Europe, and especially let's say former Eastern Europe, because in the US, what the normal entrepreneurs are people that get into their 30s and their 40s, maybe they're an engineer, maybe they're a salesperson, and then they start a business in an industry that they know, and they know a bit about business. But out here in Eastern Europe, a lot of the entrepreneurs, they're in their early to mid-20s. And I'll tell you what, they have so much courage, and they're so far ahead of me where I was when I was in my mid-20s. And so it's so impressive. But also what I thought, the best thing I can do is maybe to give you some tools based on psychology to help you get over fear, procrastination, resistance. So the first thing I want to tell you, it's okay to be scared. Because I notice here in Europe, and especially in Eastern Europe, sometimes people aren't vulnerable. You don't really talk about it. The problem is when you don't talk about it, you stuff it down, and then you have problems later. So I want to tell you that it's okay to be this way, and I want to give you some tools to get by that. And so I want to tell you a story that relates to this. So I was at a networking event. We all go to networking events. In a way, this is a networking event. In the US, and probably here, you have networking events that the only reason they exist is for you to go and meet people. So I get there, I'm in the US, I parked my car, and I'm walking in, and I see 3 people standing there at this networking event. And I go up, and I could tell by their body language they didn't know each other. So I thought, what a great place for me to go and introduce myself to them. So as I'm on my way, out of the corner of my eye, I spot the bar. And for some unknown reason, my body pivots, and I go right to get a drink at the bar. 2 or 3 minutes later, here I am, I'm sipping on my drink, and I'm thinking, Mike, what the heck? You come here to meet people, and I found I had a great place to go meet people, a great situation, and instead, here I am sipping on my drink at the bar. What am I doing? What the heck's wrong with me? So something went through my mind. I had a fear. What did I have a fear of? What was my fear? Rejection. I had a fear of rejection. Now let me ask you, I want you to raise your hand. If you've ever been at a networking event, you go to meet yourself, and you go and say, hey, my name is Mike, and the other person says, hi, I don't like you. Ever happened to anybody? No, only happened to me 2 or 3. No. But it's crazy, it's an irrational belief, isn't it? And maybe it even did happen 1 or 2 times. I don't like 1 billion times in the world. But I had this irrational belief, and it actually changed my behavior. And there's so many times, a lot of these things change our behavior. And that brings me to another situation that happened to me in San Diego. So I went and had coffee with this lady when I was running my software companies, and she was a potential referral partner, so we could potentially do some business together. And yes, we have coffees in America, just like you have in Croatia. Our coffees last about half an hour. Yours last 3 hours. I'm still trying to get used to that. So I had coffee with this lady. It was a pretty normal coffee. You know, we sat down, we chatted, and then when we get back, she wrote me an email about an hour or two later, and she put it sort of in a nice way because we had some follow-ups to do. She said, "Hey, Michael, I appreciate you meeting with me, but basically I don't want to meet with you anymore because I don't like you." I was like, does she know who I am? How could she not like me? How could anybody not like me? And that honestly happened, and for a couple hours, it really threw me for a loop. I really got down on myself. I started thinking, my gosh, did I say something to, offend her? Did I say something wrong? I replayed like everything. It was just a really, really normal coffee. And I really was really affected me for a couple hours. And I was really just analyzing all parts of me, like what's wrong with me, this and that, am I unlikable, da, da, da. But then, after a couple hours of that, I realized that it was one of the greatest gifts anybody has ever given me. Because I came to the realization, not everybody's gonna like me. And to be okay with that. Because I looked at my behavior, and there's so many times that I said something or didn't say something because I wanted to be accepted and because I wanted everybody to like me. And when I gave myself permission to not be liked by everybody, it's like it took a pressure off of my whole life. And I said, you know what? From now on, some people are going to like me and some people aren't. And I'm okay with that. And it was like great. It was like this small shift in mindset. But all of a sudden, it's like my world opened up and I became more free. I became more of myself. And the funny thing is, when I became more of myself and not caring, I became more likable, right? Because I'm more me. I'm more in touch with my heart. I'm more in touch with my soul. And I'm just being me. So just think about all these different times in your life when you could just be you. And honestly, when I am in networking situations, sometimes I get that little fear. Oh, I don't want to meet somebody else new. What if this? What if that? You know what I tell myself? Literally, I tell myself, you know what? Maybe they're going to like me and maybe they're not. And I go up and I say hi to them. And you know what? Sometimes I get this weird vibe from people. And you know what? I don't spend more time with them. And I go meet somebody else. And then I find somebody I really connect with. And it's awesome. It makes life so much easier on myself. I met this guy one time, and he travels a lot for business. Who travels here a lot for business? A lot of us travel. We stay in hotels. We travel solo. And so isn't it true that when you're traveling alone for business and you're in that hotel room and it's time for dinner, you have one of two choices. You can get room service, you can stay in bed, you got your laptop on your knees, you're watching stupid stuff on TV, and you're eating room service, and you're like, this sort of sucks. I feel really lonely. I feel like this loser up here in my room when everybody else is eating dinner. So then the next night you go down and you're in the hotel restaurant, you're all by yourself, and you're like trying to read the newspaper and think, man, I hope nobody thinks I'm a loser eating dinner all by myself. It's like a lose-lose situation, right? When you're staying alone in a hotel. Well, I met this guy, and he's like, look, I hate eating alone. I hate eating dinner alone. So what he does is he goes, and when he's alone, he goes to the hotel restaurant, and he'll go up to other people, other groups of people, and he'll ask if he can eat dinner with them. I'm like, dude, you do what? He's like, yeah, I hate to eat alone. So, I'll just find other people, and I'll ask to eat dinner with them. I'm like, that's awesome. I said, so how often? Are you like 95%, 98%? He's like, nah, I'm about 30, 35%. I'm like, dude, so it's like, you're like, no, yes? He's like, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm like, that is awesome. You're my new hero. And I said, how do you do it? He said, well, when they're saying no, they're not saying no to me. They're just saying maybe they're on a date, maybe they're, tired from traveling, maybe they're having a business meeting. And so they're not saying no to me, or maybe they are, maybe they don't like me. Screw them, I got other people to talk to. My goal is not to be liked by everybody. My goal is to find somebody to have dinner with. So he just goes on to the next one. And I'll tell you, to me, that is inspiring. I haven't reached that level yet. I do it a little bit, but sometimes when I get down on myself, like, should I do this or should I do that? I think of this guy, I'm like, he can do that, I can do that. And it's really, really amazing. It's really, really empowering. So just a lot of these little stories I want to tell you because we really want to think about, because they all have like psychological anchors in them. So that's why I tell these stories. So let's talk about real psychology for a second. So I want to talk about procrastination, fear, and resistance. Now, when I talk about these, I want you to think about the one thing that you're putting off in your life right now. The one idea you have, the one thing you want to move forward with, but you have that resistance, you have that fear, you have that procrastination. And everybody has at least one thing. If you don't have one thing, I got like 8 things, so I'll lend you one. But I want you to think of the first thing that came to your mind. Not the biggest one, but the first thing. Maybe it's a business you want to start. Maybe it's a book or a blog you want to get out there. Maybe it's that really important angel you want to call, but you're afraid when you call them they might say yes. Then what are you going to do? Maybe it's that cute girl or boy you want to ask out. Maybe it's that difficult conversation with a friend or family member. What do you know you have to do, but you're procrastinating? So I'm going to teach you psychologically where this comes from and how you can overcome it. But what I want you to do is take that exact situation, put it in the back of your head right now, because we're going to come back to it in a little bit. So when you're 3, 4, 5 years old, there's only one thing that's important to you when you're in this important developmental age as a kid. And that's the love and adoration of your caregivers, of your parents, right? Because when I'm 4 years old, I don't really care what toys I'm playing with, what I'm eating. I just want mom and dad to love me, right? I just want to get affection from my parents. Now, say, my dad was really tough on me. He wanted the best for me, so I'm going to toughen this kid up. And so let's take a situation. Let's say I'm at a race. I'm 4 years old. I'm at a race with 100 other kids. And my dad's there. My tough dad's there. So I'm at the race. They say go, and I run. I run as fast as I can. And I come in third out of 100. And I come up. I'm all excited. Dad, I did pretty good, huh? Didn't I? What does my dad say to me? Not good enough, Mike. Come on. You're third. You can do better. You can do first. Run harder. Pump your arms faster. Okay, Dad, I got it. I think I got it. I'm going to do you proud this time. Next race comes up. Boom. I pump my arms as hard as I can. I race as fast as I can. I come in second out of 100. What does my dad say to me? First loser. What's wrong with you, kid? You're not putting your heart into it. Oh, my God, Dad, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to let you down. So knowing that the only thing important in my life is the love and adoration of my father in that moment, what connection do I make as a kid? Love equals first place. I will get this love and affection that I crave. That's the only thing that's important to me when I win the race, when I come in first. All right, you see how that happens? Let's take another really simple example. Say I get an A+ on a test, on my math test. I'm 5 years old. Hey, Mom, I got an A+ on my test. What does she say? Michael, A+, you're perfect. I love you so much. Perfection equals love. Perfection equals love. So the next time in my life, I'm making all these connections in this developmental time in my life. The next time I can take a hard test or an easy test, which test do I take? I take an easy test. The next time I take an easy test or no test, which test do I take? I take no test, because there's no chance of not being perfect. There's no chance of losing that affection. There's no chance of losing that love and adoration from my parents that I crave so much. And so when we talk about procrastination, when we talk about this resistance and fear, ladies and gentlemen, that's the psychological reason we procrastinate. So think about that issue that I just had you bring up a couple minutes ago and bring it back to your present. How is that you taking no test? How is that you holding back? How is that you not wanting to put yourself out there? How is that you playing it safe and not even trying it till you want to be perfect? So the question is, if that's where it comes from, if this resistance comes from us from holding back because we don't want to be perfect, what we have to do is we have to change our definition of success. Success is no longer being perfect. Success is no longer coming in first. Success is playing in the game. So I want to give you a really quick, easy, fun thing to do how much time we got left? Okay. Okay, so a really quick, easy, fun thing to do is the next time you want to try something, the next time you want to do something, you call it an experiment. You call it an experiment, because what's the only way to fail in an experiment? is not to try it. So when you want to do all these new things out there, you want to take them, you want to reframe it as an experiment. Because my friend Nancy called me up one time, and Nancy was crying. And I said, Nancy, why are you crying? She goes, well, I just went to the doctor, and I'm allergic to wheat. I'm gluten intolerant. I said, well, that sucks, but why are you crying? She goes, well, I have to change every meal I'm going to eat for the rest of my life, because I eat pancakes for breakfast, sandwiches for lunch, pasta for dinner. I'm like, wow, that does sound intimidating. I said, well, just put that aside for now. Can you change every meal you're going to eat for the next 24 hours? She's like, yeah, I can do that. I said, okay, well, call me back then. So she calls me back. I go, how was it? She goes, oh, it was pretty good. I said, well, let's do another experiment. Let's do a week-long experiment. So she does a week-long experiment. She stays off wheat for a week. And then she's successful. And then now she's on for the rest of her life. But do you see how it's different changing every meal you eat for the rest of your life rather than changing every meal you eat for the next 24 hours? So when you have these things in your life, start experimenting. And I'll tell you what, as business people, again, this is what when I tell you, as entrepreneurs, you're doing things that you've never done before. And it's scary. So just try to take some of the pressure off yourself. Take some of the pressure off yourself and really work on self-compassion. That's what my book, Soul-Centered Leadership, is all about. It's just really about having more compassion for yourself. Because when we have more compassion for ourselves, we're more creative, we connect with people better, we have more energy to grow our business. In fact, if you tweet at RMA Elevates, I'll put you on the pre-release list, because I really want to get that. My whole life now is devoted to getting this message out here. And and it used to be where people like political people and activists used to be the people that made real influence in the world. But now it's business people. Now it's business people. It's people like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg. And so I just want to give everybody out there, all the entrepreneurs out there, all the tools they can to be successful as they can. So I want everybody to go out there and really connect to their heart, connect to their soul, become soul-centered leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, R. Michael Anderson. How are you guys now? Feel motivated? We told you about his book. So in January, he's going to come out worldwide. Make sure you get it so you have him at home whenever you want, because he's such a big guy and he likes to travel a lot. So who knows where will we have the opportunity to catch him next.